Well, good evening, patriots and freedom fighters throughout Saskatchewan, across the country, and around the world. How we all doing tonight? So I've been working at lining up some guests here for tomorrow night and Friday night and Sunday. So I wanted to go on tonight just because it's been a couple of days, and I thought it was important that we all touch base and see what's going on, talk about a few things, and yeah. So no guest tonight. It is a little chilly. I see everyone's talking about the weather in the chat. It's a little chilly. It's been chilly for long enough. Probably 5 days or so here in Saskatoon. So it's enough's enough. It was with the wind chill, of course. It's mid minus 40s to mid 50s. It's not underwear on my head. It's a fan or beanie that I sometimes wear instead of my hat, and I haven't had time to think about taking it off. It's not the first time I've worn this beanie. My wife thinks it looks like a swimming cap, but whatever. My hair is getting so unruly. It's getting so long and ridiculous that I can't even really wear a hat properly because it looks, kind of ridiculous. So it's the skull cap today. It's just the way it is. Yeah, my wife thinks it's a shower cap. So what is going on? Holy, what isn't going on? So, Saturday, myself and one of my cohorts are going to go to a live in-person speaking engagement, which I'm quite looking forward to. Of course, it's it's somewhat clandestine. We're not advertising the event, but it's sort of through word of mouth in a small community. And no ponytail, Lorraine. No. Sometimes when I shave my head on the sides and the back, I'll leave, the top strip. And I have been known to tie a little thing into the rat tail. But that was quite a few years ago. I'm not sure I'd try it again. Yeah. So I'm quite looking forward to that on Saturday. I think people need to do more and more of that. I think it's important that we get out into the community. We start spreading the message to the community, grassroots, talking to people face to face, opening up discussion. We miss it and we need it. And one of the byproducts of this lockdown culture that they've imposed on us is that we don't get to come together, which is for them a beneficial byproduct, sort of by design. This whole lockdown thing keeps everybody apart. It keeps people away from each other, from communicating, from spreading information, so they can continue to hold the narrative. You guys are still talking hair over there. How's things over on D Live? Let's see if we can pull D Live now with this new system. My God, it should be powerful enough, I would think. Let's have a look. Let's get in there. Log in.
There's those bolt cutters again.
Yeah, I don't want this on. Okay, let's try this login again. Why is it telling me to do that? Authentication mismatch. All right, well, let's try to log in through Facebook then. Yes, continue. Sorry, guys. I just want to try on a little D Live to see if we can tap into the chat over there, because I know there's a lot of folks that hang out over there. All right, we're in, and let's. Oh, I see Tyler Russell is live right now. Let's go to my channel. Oh, there's a lot of folks that hang out over. Hey, there I am. Let me just mute that. All right, how you doing there, D Live? We got 28 viewers over there, so that's good. All right. So I'll pull StreamYard out. Now I'm getting messages that my Facebook has cut me off. So let's just see if we can get that reinstated. There's an error logging into this application. Please try again later. Why? Well, it looks like Facebook has kicked me out, and I'm not sure why. Let's just have a look. Continue. Yes, continue. Sorry, guys. I'm doing this on the fly. But I'm trying to figure out why I'm not on Facebook. I haven't got any notifications that I am banned. Yeah, that's wild. Who knows, right? But for whatever reason, I am not on Facebook. I just got kicked. And I haven't even said anything yet. Yeah, anyway. So, yeah, it looks like we're just Twitter, YouTube, and D Live again. I guess I'll have to have a look and see where the notifications are saying over on Facebook and why they've got me out of here. Sorry, I'm just still looking. So it was as soon as I hooked into D Live that I got punted. I'm not sure why. Still working on it. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it's okay. Let's do that. I don't know. It seems like I'm connected there, but whatever. Anyways, where were we? Maybe because you use your Facebook login to get into DLive. Yeah, it has something to do with that reel. It seemed to happen as soon as I used it to log into DLive, but it shouldn't cut me out. And I should be able to reconnect, but it's not letting me do that. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Can't figure it out. We'll just go without Facebook tonight. I guess that's the way it goes. All right. So where were we? Oh, yeah. Paul Hinman, Max Burney, Randy Hillier, and Derek Sloan and others have joined the forces. Yay. Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. In fact, let's go for an update over there and have a look to see who else has joined. Liberty Coalition Canada.com. Let's see. And now DLive is frozen. Yeah, tech difficulties again. What a surprise. Anyways, Liberty Coalition Canada. Here we go. Let's have a look and see who's joined up. All right, 25,000 have signed the petition. So get in there, sign the petition. And again, it's Liberty. Oh, that's the change. We don't want that. We want this. But get over to the change or the change.org petition. So Hillier, Bernice, Sloan, Van Leeuwen, Herlick, Angela Pitt, Drew Barnes. Good to see Drew Barnes getting in the action. Well done, Drew. Dave Bilesma, Andre Gagnon, Paul Chevette, Harold Juncker. That's a new one. Yannick Cote, that's a new one. Carol Boisvert, Guy Lacroix, that's new. Amber Harris, that's new. Jonathan Sigelkow, Greg Belkey, Eric Lother, Paul Hinman, Derek Fildebrand, attaboy Derek, Gordon Kessler, Wes Taylor, John Mutton, Marianne Post, Glenn Carrott, attaboy Glenn, Jason Alderson, Johan DeWolf, Gary Vance. Wow, quite a lot more people have joined. Bill Clements, Sheila Bull, Alan Warnock, Wendy Parker, John Sabenga. Yeah, it's growing quite a bit, which is good to see. I see a lot of formers, so fair enough. But there are some existing as well. There's these ones, I guess, are the existing ones. So that's good. Good to see. We need more. Share the shit out of this. Yeah. So, anyways, cool hat. That's going to be a topic of discussion, I guess, in this stream. Yeah, so big news of the day, Pierre Poilievre was demoted from finance critic, which is, there's some people out there that are trying to defend this move by saying it wasn't a demotion. Well, it is 100% a demotion, which is insane, given that he's probably the best voice the Conservative Party has, including the tool. But yeah, it's a demotion. The second most important position in government is the finance minister, who in this case also wears another hat of deputy prime minister, Chrystia Freeland. So it is the second most important position in government. So by rights, the second most important position for the opposition next to the leadership. And I would suggest in Pierre Poilievre's case, he's probably the most important position over and above O'Toole. But that position is the finance critic position. So anybody that tells me it isn't a demotion and now he's in charge of jobs, I'm not, there's no question that it was a demotion. And ultimately, it's more red works. It's more Tory red, moving the strong conservative voices out and bringing in the red Tories, as advertised. Now, my screen on DLive, yeah, go ahead, is frozen. Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay, I guess it was only frozen. Oh, because I paused it. You meathead. That's why. Okay, everything is good over at DLive. How you guys doing over there tonight? Sorry, I'm a little flustered today too because I I did manage to finally connect my Sony Handycam 4K, whatever it is, AX33. With video was all good, but as I was getting close to airtime, I was scrambling to find the charger cord because the batteries in using it for this purpose are not going to last very long. So I was scrambling, I couldn't find it, and so I had to scramble back to this camera, which is fine too. But that's why I'm sort of flustered and frazzled, because I rushed to get going. I was already late. So anyways, O'Toole does it again. I can't imagine. It would be great to have Pierre and Sloan. Absolutely. It's the hat. See, you guys are going to talk about my skull cap all night. I'm going to switch to my hat here. You guys are obviously very distracted by my skull cap, but look at this mess. So I'll just switch back to what you guys are used to, because I don't want you being distracted and all out of sorts because I'm wearing a skull cap instead of my regular hat. So there we go. Silver Stacker says Poliver is not politically correct enough for that douchebag O'Toole. Yeah, well, that's what it is. He's too effective, I guess. And my guess is there's lots of this happen behind closed doors. There's probably a ton of discussions that happen. My guess is that Poliver has probably been putting the heat on. And of course, O'Toole and the rest of the party brass are not on board. So I think that's what we're seeing. More of the same, right? I'm not sure how much more red they could get as a party. But I'm just continuing to watch this dumpster fire that they call a party. And I'm hoping that the majority of conservative folks wake up to this nonsense. I don't know. It seems to me that the only thing they're going to accomplish is alienating a whole lot more people away from the party and and towards the PPC, because really that's the only other option there is. And it's the realistic option and it's the natural option. So we need more. We have to not rely so much on the imploding of the CPC. Then we need people to understand what the CPC represents, what the Liberal Party represents, what the NDP Party represents, what the Green Party represents, and it's all the same thing. It's all globalist. It's all globalist agenda. So the more people realize that and then move to the PPC for that reason, the happier I'll be, because that'll be real and genuine. Yeah, it's good that Max stepped up. He needs to. He really needs to be seen as the warrior and the one guy representing the one party that is fighting for the sovereignty and freedom of our nation. So he really has to do that. D-Live's still talking about my skull cap over there. I guess some people wanted me to keep it on, but it is what it is. Get over my headwear. Maybe I should just stop wearing headwear altogether. Because I asked my wife the other day to shave my head for me because it's getting out of control, and she doesn't want to. She wants me to grow it. And then I talked to my sister, and she agreed with my wife, and she wants me to grow my hair long. So I'm not getting any help there. But I think at some point I'll just end up shaving it, and that'll be that. And then all will be well again and right in the world. Anyways, so another thing I wanted to talk about tonight was this Saskatchewan party the Saskatchewan Health Authority, as a matter of fact, I guess they must be feeling the heat. They must be feeling some pressure regarding the PCR test that they're using to justify the numbers. And not only that, but they keep complaining and whining that more or less and less people are going to get tested. From our government right down to our mayor here in Saskatoon are whining about it. In fact, Charlie Clark suggests people should just go get tested whether they have symptoms or not. Because, they have 1,000, they have room for 1,000 people a day, and there's only 300 or 400 people getting tested per day. This was last week. It's probably a lot less. And of course, the less people go get tested, the less false positives are going to be garnered. So the less false positives means the less cases. And this all goes to shit as soon as you lose all the cases, and they're going to have to change the direction that they've taken us all in because they based it all on the numbers, which are derived from the BS PCR test. Anyways, so they must be feeling some heat because they are fact checking people. And I don't know, I've been one of the loudest. I know there's other people that are loud too, but given them the fact that I've put my face and name out there so much, I tend to think this is directed somewhat at me, being fact checked, because as loud as I am, and I call into Gormley and I call into these shows, and I mean, again, there's lots of other people too. So it's kind of a narrative that's going around, which is good. Keep it up. In fact, somebody told me the other day that a bunch of people called into Gormley, giving him shit over this. So that's great. Keep it up. Keep doing it. It forces the government to do silly things like this. So I'm just going to read this, and I'm going to tear it apart as I read it. Because this is a really good example of how the government just sort of covers the surface, where they want everybody to be. They don't want anybody diving any deeper below the surface. Just keep it at the surface. Let's just keep this narrative going as long as we can. Because God forbid we're ever proven wrong. So with so much information coming at a person about COVID-19, sometimes it's difficult to tell fact from fiction. So they're setting the table, right? So they are the only arbiters of fact. They are the only fact point that anybody should ever listen to. Anything outside of their narrative is wrong. It's conspiracy theory. It's misguided, blah, blah, blah. That's just how they are. One social media rumor. So you see what they do there, right? They completely degrade and dismiss information that floats around social media as rumor or conspiracy theory or whatever. It's immediately what they do. When the reality is, most of the information that opposes their viewpoints, that opposes their evidence, that opposes their justifications is on social media, because it's the only way that people like myself and you folks can communicate and try to get this message, this opposing viewpoints, this opposing evidence into the eyeballs and the earlobes of other citizens of our province and our country. So, I mean, what do they expect? Of course, we're going to talk about this on social media, and they know this. So they try to demonize social media, right? They try to degrade social media, because, if you hear it on the internet, it's probably wrong. And they know that that's not true. Anyways, one social media rumor regarding COVID-19 PCR, polymerase chain reaction testing, is a claim that the test is inaccurate, or that our labs are not following World Health Organization and Health Canada guidelines for COVID-19 testing. That is not correct. Well, I don't know about you folks, but I haven't seen any I haven't made any claims that they're not following what Health Canada is telling them to do. In fact, I would make the argument that, yes, you are following what Health Canada is telling you to do, and they're wrong. And in so doing so are you. All COVID-19 tests in Saskatchewan are interpreted according to their IFU instructions for use manufacturer's recommendations, which are approved by Health Canada. The number of cycles, the number of times the sample viral RNA ribonucleic acid need to be amplified to reach a detectable level depends on the assay, the test. But the general standard for most PCRs is to go through 40 cycles. So the one thing I liked about this article is that they actually admit that the general CT is 40 cycles. So that's nice that they admitted that, because we needed to know that, and it was kind of hard to find up until this point. The actual threshold for positive viruses indeterminate are chosen based on validations and vary assay to assay based on the clinical performance. Our lab staff meet the highest possible standard, or the highest standards possible, and work very hard every day to ensure quality control and the results are accurate. Stay home if you feel unwell and take the self-assessment tool to determine if you need a COVID-19 test. Continue to follow the current public health orders and public health advice. I find this interesting. Stay home if you feel unwell. Take the self-assessment tool to determine if you need a COVID test. And then if you think you need a COVID test, ignore the first part of this sentence and go get yourself tested. Continue to follow the current health plan. Yeah. So here's my problem. So this article it's pathetic. It does absolutely nothing to deal with the concerns that have been brought forward regarding the PCR test. It's insanity. And this is what they pass off to the public as fact-checking. So let's have a look at this World Health Organization notice that they are referring to, finally. Of course, referring it in a very weak and pathetic way. So, blah, blah, blah. The last three paragraphs are the important three. So, WHO guidance, diagnostic testing for SARS-CoV-2 states that careful interpretation of weak positive results is needed. The cycle threshold, CT, needed to detect virus is inversely proportional to the patient's viral load. Where test results do not correspond with the clinical presentation, a new specimen should be taken and retested using the same or different NAT technology. So in other words, if you tested somebody and they had no symptoms, but you cycled them at 40, you should probably do it again because you're probably wrong and it was probably a false positive. Essentially is what they're saying. WHO reminds IVD users that disease prevalence alters the predictive value of test results. So this first little sentence here is an interesting one. The World Health Organization reminds IVD users that disease prevalence alters the predictive value of test results. So they're essentially admitting that this isn't a concrete science, that this isn't a concrete test. They're not going to give you a test, and here it is. It's a predictive value. Important to understand. As disease prevalence decreases, so as less and less symptoms that you have, the risk of false positive increases. And there's still thousands of people that are arguing that that's not what this notice says, when in fact it's exactly what this notice says. This means that the probability that a person who has a positive result is truly infected with SARS-CoV-2 decreases as prevalence decreases, irrespective of claimed specificity. Most PCR assays are indicated as an aid for diagnosis. Therefore, and this is the important part, healthcare providers must consider any result in combination with the timing of sampling, specimen type, assay specifics, clinical observations, patient history, confirmed status of any contacts, and epidemiological information. They didn't deal with any of that. They didn't talk about any of that. They only said basically what we're doing is good. Don't look anywhere else. Just trust us. What we're doing is perfect. It's bang on. Don't worry about it. It's good. That's all they've said here. That's all they've said. They've basically admitted in a roundabout way that the only thing they're doing is running the PCR test and sending it to a lab, and that they trust that their lab people will do a wonderful job. That's it. That's it. That's all they have. It's unbelievable. And this is what they pass off as fact checking. So, in the spirit of fact checking, let's do some. So, here, and you guys are all familiar, the Corman Drosten Review report. External peer review of the RT-PCR test to detect SARS-CoV-2 reveals 10 major scientific flaws at the molecular and methodological level. Consequences for false positive results. So here's all the people that are listed in this study, peer reviewed. If you want, and people need to see, they can go to the bottom, and all these little numbers correlate to who these people are, and they'll tell you who they are and what their expertise is. So let's just go have a little look at that, shall we? Oh, that's comments. We don't want comments. Where are you? All right. So we have Dr. Peter Borger, molecular genetics. I don't know. Seems like he probably knows what he's doing. Rajesh Kumar Malhotra, former 3D artist, scientific visualizations, Center for Molecular Medicine of the Austrian Academy of Sciences. Probably got a fairly decent handle on things. Dr. Michael Yeadon, Biochem Talks U, Surrey, PhD in pharmacology, managing director at Eden Consulting, former Pfizer chief scientist out of the UK. So, so far so good. Looks to me like these people probably have a pretty firm grip of what's going on. Dr. Claire Craig, BM, whatever all of these letters mean after their name, but it's a whole lot more than what I have, and probably a whole lot more than Scott Moe has, and probably more than even Dr. Shahab has. Kevin McKernan, Bachelor of Science, Emory University, Chief Scientific Officer, founder of Medical Genomics, engineered the sequencing pipeline at WIBR and MIT for the Human Genome Project, invented and developed the solid sequencer, awarded patents related to PCR, DNA isolation, and sequencing. Seems to me that guy's got himself pretty squared away. Dr. Klaus Steger, Department of Urology, Pediatric Urology and Andrology, Molecular Andrology, Biomedical Research Center of the Justus Liebig University in Gießen, Germany. All right. Biochemist, industrial pharmacologist, Lydia Angelova, Master's in Science Biology, PhD in microbiology, former research at the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Maryland, USA. I think I'd take her word for it. I'm pretty sure I would. If I was, trying to represent the best interest of my residents of Saskatchewan and of Canada, I think I would take these people's word for what they say. I don't have to go through them all. The point has been made. So let's just see what they say in regards. And I know we've gone through this before, but I think it's important. I'm not going to go through it all. It's there for anybody to look at. Anytime I bring this up in a Twitter debate or Facebook, whatever, and I post this along with the WHO notice, the debate ends. People run away because they can't denounce what this is and what this represents. So I just want to go to point number 3 again, because the Saskatchewan fact checkers for the Saskatchewan Health Authority don't seem to want to do this. So it's up to us to then do this. So let's do it. The number of amplification cycles less than 35, preferably 25 to 30 cycles. In case of virus detection, 35 or greater cycles only detect signals which do not correlate with infectious virus, as determined by isolation in cell culture. And that's exactly what Dr. Cahill, Dolores Cahill, is saying, which is when she got information that they tested 1,500 positive tests, and it turned out that all 1,500 were false positives, and they were actually only influenza A and influenza B. That's what she's referring to. That's what she does. If someone is tested by a PCR as positive when a threshold of 35 cycles or higher is used, as is the case in most laboratories in the Europe and US and Canada, in fact, specifically Saskatchewan, as we can see here, because that's what the government says they're told to do by Health Canada. The probability that said person is actually infected is less than 3%. I'm going to repeat that again. The probability that the person is actually infected is less than 3%. The probability that said result is a false positive is 97%. Now, we could go and I'll direct people to number 3. I'm not going to go through it again because we've already been there. We've already done that, but I'm just showing people where they can go to get a little bit more of an understanding right here. If you go through this section, I would recommend reading the whole thing. I would recommend understanding what all these folks who, again, are listed at close to the bottom, have a ton of knowledge, experience, education, data, evidence. So I would recommend you read this whole thing. It's extremely important. And, go back to a few of my other videos. We talked about this more in depth. But I wanted to touch on it again tonight because this is what passes as information and fact checking from the Saskatchewan Health Association. It's insanity. It's just absolute insanity. So, yeah, I wanted to go through that tonight because it's stuck. It's stuck with me. Where is Liberty Talk Canada? Liberty Talk Canada is still on YouTube. That's Odessa Orlowitz and her hubby Norb. Which reminds me, before I go any further, I'm just going to check the comments, see where we're at over there, if I'm missing anything fun. Well, the problem is these fact checkers, I decorate, says unless fact checkers are scientists, they are just researching and not well. Well, regardless if they're scientists or not, it doesn't matter because the SHA is essentially at this point the propaganda arm one of the propaganda arms, a political arm of the government, right? So they're going to promote whatever the government tells them to promote, and they can't do it very well because, well, as we've seen, they don't have much of an argument. I mean, if they're going to write something like this, you would think, given the criticism, given the evidence, given all the information that we've come forward on social media, that they would be more in depth with this, that they would actually bring to the table evidence that disputes what is said here and here. But they don't. They basically just said, we're doing a good job. Don't worry about it. And people just should not be accepting it. But of course they do, because they don't hear any alternative or opposing viewpoints, because they've locked it down. They've locked down the narrative. They've locked down the information. Yeah, she has a new channel. Odessa does, over there on YouTube, and she's still on Facebook. And of course she's on Liberty Talk, or liberty.com, I guess it is, their social media network. I'm on it. I don't use it a whole lot. I'm sort of hoping for more people to join, and probably lots of other people are too, but it's a work in progress. But yeah, thanks Rio. There's that's her channel there. But yeah, so anyways, in regards to Odessa's the talk of Odessa reminded me to let you know what's happening with the Great Reset Summit. So we're taking it in a little different direction. We're going to be releasing it independently. We're going to release it ourselves. We just got into the weeds a little bit there with some of our partners, and decided that, you know what, we'll be just as successful, maybe more successful, releasing it ourselves. So look for that. We're going to be starting to promote it here shortly, and we're going to run it kind of like Shark Week, but it'll be Great Reset Summit Week. And it'll be probably over 5 days consecutive, so Monday to Friday, coming up here at the end of February, beginning of March. And we'll release a couple of videos, interviews that we've already done each night. Me and Odessa are going to do it live. So we're going to sort of host the summit live, and then we're going to show the recorded interviews with all the guests that we put together. And we got a hell of a guest list. We'll have a flyer done up, and we'll be promoting that very soon. So stay tuned, look for that. And so by doing this, we are hoping that the folks watching it live, the folks watching it, after the summit week, will donate and help, cover some of the costs that we had in putting this all together, and generating revenue from that, direct from the viewer. Because we think between all of our supporters and subscribers and followers, that we'll be able to do that, and make back a few bucks to help us recoup some of the expenses that we've put into this. So that's the plan. So look for that. Look for promotional material coming up shortly, and be ready for a solid week of the Great Reset Summit, hosted by Mark and Odessa. Looking forward to it. And again, wait till you see the interview list. It's It's pretty good. It's impressive. Looking forward to it. Anyways, what else do we got going on in the trust the plan again? Yes, we are too. No Agenda 21. Somebody mentioned earlier that I would look tired. I'm not tired at all, actually. I've been sleeping really good lately. Lots of stress because, whatever, business is slow and, you know, grinding away to try to pay the bills. This time of year is always bad, but because of all this COVID bullshit, it makes it that much tougher. And a lot of my focus is on this stuff, right? And so it takes away a little bit of where my focus could be. But I just think this is extremely important. So it's kind of a balancing act. But yeah, and stress, just plain up stress, right? So, but I'm not tired. I've been sleeping really good. I never usually have a problem with sleep. I've always been a good sleeper, and yeah. Yes, and the other thing is, so in regards to this PCR, I floated it out there on Twitter yesterday evening, or this morning. I don't know. But I think and I believe that everything is hinging on this PCR, whether it's, all of the lockdowns, the measures, the restrictions, the stomping on our civil liberties, our freedoms, our rights. It's all justified because of the numbers, death numbers, case numbers. It's all being justified because of that. Even vaccines, of course, are being justified through the numbers, through the case numbers, through the death numbers that are all derived from the PCR. So much hinges on the PCR test that I just think it's such a key to this. So I floated it out on Twitter, got decent response. In fact, I should have a look at that. Decent response. Well, let's just have a look at it. Why not? All right. Let's just go to my profile and we'll see where I posted. Oh, look, there we are. Oh, if you guys missed it, Theo Fleury was on Tyler Thompson's stream today. Fantastic discussion. I've reached out to Theo, and we're moving towards having Theo on my show as well. So stay tuned for that. Lots of PCR talk, but I put out a poll. Where are you? Not that one. This one. So the tweet was, would you financially back legal action against a government in Canada, specifically a legal action against the PCR test? If I get good numbers on this poll, I will spend some time finding a lawyer willing to fight on this particular issue. I think it's that consequential. So we had 926 votes so far. Let me just retweet that out and see if we can get some more. 96.3% say they would support it financially. So, I mean, it's one of those things when you file a suit against the government, it's going to cost a lot of money. And, we have the JCCF, we have the rebel media in defense positions, and that's fantastic. They're doing phenomenal work, and everybody, myself included, appreciates the fact that they're doing what they're doing and they're defending us against the tickets and fines that we've gotten. So that's fantastic. But there's, the JCCF has also filed lawsuit in general against some of these measures in some provinces, and it looks like Saskatchewan's on the list. But nobody has targeted that I'm aware of. I mean, Rocco Galati, of course, he's filed lawsuit against some of these these restrictions and these measures and lockdowns, which again is great. But I haven't seen anybody zero in on the PCR specifically. And so I would like to put together, hire a good lawyer with bringing together some experts like we seen on that list. And we have many of them right here in Canada. I'm sure Dr. Hodkinson would love to be part of that. Maybe Dr. Modry, maybe a few others that could act as expert witnesses if it gets to trial, which I'm sure it would. So I would like to do that. I would like to put that together and focus specifically on the PCR test, because again, it's the big one. This whole issue, everything sort of relies on the PCR, and I'd like to attack that. So the first thing I'm going to do, even based on that Twitter poll, is find a lawyer that's willing to take this case on in this regard and file a lawsuit against the Saskatchewan government, specifically in relation to the PCR being used. And so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to be on the phone tomorrow trying to find said lawyer or group of lawyers or whatever it takes and have a discussion, see if we want to do this in a class action, or if we just want to do it, through myself, whatever. But if I can get that set up, of course, I'm going to ask, what's this sort of thing going to cost? And then we'll see if we can crowdfund it. And if we can, then it's going to be game on. Let's get this done like, Donkey Kong. Because I think it's that important. Look into the rapid test they're talking about. They say even higher false positives. Yeah. While they're starting to run, and this is what you're going to see, like this whole thing up until now has been based on the PCR. The PCR argument is failing miserably, of course, because of the pressure that we're bringing forward and information we're bringing forward and pressure we're putting on. So it's huge. And so you're going to start seeing them slowly back away from the PCR without admitting any guilt, and try to find another way to continue this this farce. So stay tuned for that. That's coming. As soon as I have information, I'll bring it forward, and I'll start another GoFundMe, and we'll get her done, because it has to be done. And what I'd like to see also, and maybe it'll stem from this, is for somebody to look at having the positive tests sequenced and actually cultured and tested to see if they are in actual fact positive tests, like Dolores Cahill is doing. I don't know. I have no idea how to go about that. I have no idea, but I'd like if somebody wants to help me out with that and putting that together, as Dolores Cahill suggests and is sort of promoting. Hey, fantastic. Let's do that too. Exactly. People have lost everything because of it, and they will ignore it and carry on with rapid testing. They should pay class action law. Yeah, absolutely, they should. They got almost a full year of accountability and responsibility based on all of this, based on a BS, provable BS PCR test. So, Dolores Cahill said that SARS-CoV-2 has run its course. The so-called variants are other flus or influenzas. Yeah, most likely. What did I miss there, Dorothy? Dorothy Leatherbarrow says, Mr. Friesen, wondered if you could please pray for me, as I think there is something physically seriously going on with me due to stress. Sure, prayers forward. Absolutely. Thoughts and prayers going to Dorothy, as my home nurse and her staff seem to be acting COVID cuckoo. Oh, which is driving me nuts. Yeah, I don't doubt it. A lot of people struggling, Dorothy. A lot of people in your boat for sure. Notary public affidavits will stop mass fines. You're serving the civil servant who gave you the mass ticket. Yeah, what's happening over here on D Live? They will admit nothing and will be happy. Yes, they will admit nothing and will be happy. Isn't that the truth? Yeah, another great idea. Maybe try and find someone at the university. It's probably there where it would happen anyway. Now they're making a saliva test to enter Canada. Yeah. Canadian mama, maybe DNA. Yeah. So that's where we're at. That's what I'm working towards, what I'm looking at. So I think that's about it for tonight. I don't think there was anything else that I wanted to discuss, unless there's anything earth-shattering that you guys wanted to discuss. Conspiracy factualist, real patriots need some hard carry through to really see it through. Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah. PCR accountability in court in Calgary. Yeah, hopefully. That's good. What if the issue isn't even with the test? Where is the transparency with results? I'm not terribly sure what you mean by that, Prairie Gal, but it's unequivocal that there's issue with the tests. And of course, transparency with the results. Sure. I mean, there's so many issues with the PCR, and they know it. Yeah, I'll talk to a lawyer about that, Mega Princess. She says, why not class action? We've all been affected. Yeah, and if that's the best route to take, then definitely we'll open it up. I'm going to focus because I'm in Saskatchewan, and these health orders and all of these measures and lockdowns and restrictions are done on a individual provincial basis, as set out by the Constitution, even though they are getting their directions from Health Canada, Dr. Tam, ultimately, World Health Organization. So yeah, more transparency absolutely needs to be done. But so we're going to tackle this on a provincial basis. So I would recommend folks, if we're going to take on this case here in Saskatchewan with PCR, that's a precedent. We could set the precedent here in Saskatchewan, and it would be, applicable in other jurisdictions. Again, something I'll talk to the lawyer about, but hopefully we can start getting this moving forward tomorrow, and start calling them on this stuff. So, yeah, Jack Sparrow, I seen that. I posted on one of my streams the website where they were purchasing in 2017, actually, testing kits for COVID. So, hi, Mark. The government is rolling out to the point of care testing in all facilities. Positive cases needed. Yeah. Well, that's the only thing that's keeping this whole thing going is these tests, and the cases and the deaths that are all derived from this test. So, really is the linchpin. Thanks, Steady Eddie. Stay tuned. I'll let you guys know. Like I said, I'll take the time tomorrow and contact some lawyers to see if there's some here that want to take it on, and let's get it done. Let's challenge this. Let's make these people accountable. You know, it's one thing to defend yourself against the fines and tickets and these sorts of things, which we have to do. But it'll never get to court is sort of the way we're looking at it. You know, before it gets to an actual trial, there has to be disclosure. The government has to give us the information they're using to justify these acts, these measures, these restrictions, these bylaws, and we don't think they can do it. And judging by the Saskatchewan Health Authority, they're sort of proving to us that they can't. And so that'll never see the light of day in court. I really don't believe it will, any of these. And so that means we'll get off these tickets, but we're still not holding the government accountable for what they've done. And I think we need to do that. So here we go. Let's get her done. So that's it. That's what we're going to do. Rio's yelling at me here. National support to win. Yeah, national support to win in one province, and we go from there. Absolutely, Rio, 100%, right? And if we can win it, if we can, pressure the government here through this action, hey, it's a benefit to everybody. No question about it. Canadian Mama, thank you, Mark. I agree. The PCR test have to keep focusing on. It's the crux. It really is. It's the linchpin. Without it, they have nothing. Without the numbers, they have nothing. It's the only thing the media has ever talked about is the cases, deaths, all derived from this PCR. That there's enough scientific evidence. There's enough scientists. There's enough doctors, virologists, immunologists, virologists, whatever, that have the evidence. So without it, this ends. It's gone. Because if you eliminate this testing procedure, you have nothing. You don't have numbers. Somebody was bitching there earlier today. I think it was on Twitter. Still on this 20,000 people died. Yes, 20,900 are the numbers right now in Canada. Out of 816,000 positive tests, which equates to 2.5%. But that, once you factor in that the deaths and the numbers have been achieved through faulty PCR, then once you factor in that most of the deaths are people over the age of 77, vast majority, the recovery rate goes to about 99.8 or 0.9% for anybody under the age of 77. So, you take out the numbers derived from PCR, and it's the flu. And I'm not saying that, because I know people, friend of the show, friend of mine, I've met him a couple of times, Dave Russell. He's sick. He's in the hospital. He's having trouble breathing. They claim it's COVID. He's sort of, accepts that it is COVID. I would have some questions, of course, if that was me. How did you determine that this is COVID and not just pneumonia from the flu or from influenza? So I'm not yet throwing it all out. Maybe there's something to this, but if you just look at the numbers, if you just look at the testing, if you just look at, it's nowhere near justifiable to lock down our country and to destroy our economy. And we all know that in the bigger picture, And don't ever lose sight of the bigger picture. We all know that this is being used as a mechanism to usher in sustainable development and the Great Reset. I spoke with somebody today in Saskatoon who was talking to me about how the cities are moving forward with this agenda. And it's all going under the wire because everyone is focused on COVID. Everyone's focused on COVID, COVID, COVID. Everything's COVID. Meanwhile, what's happening behind the scenes, which of course is another beneficial byproduct for the globalists and their partners to push through this whole thing. And that's why there is a pandemic. They've told us they're going to take this as an opportunity for a reset to achieve the goals, the sustainable development goals. So that's the bigger picture. And with that context, it's really easy to understand why governments are using a BS PCR test to bring in these measures, all measures used to be able to usher in the Sustainable Development Agenda and the Great Reset. So, with that context, this all makes a whole lot more sense. There's a whole lot of people out there that can't figure that out. They can't wrap their head around why the governments would lie to people using this BS PCR test. They just can't wrap their head around it. They can't understand why because they have no context, because they have no understanding that this is all part of the bigger picture. This is all part of achieving the goals of the Great Reset and sustainable development, all of it, which is why you don't hear from any of the governments. You don't hear from any of the opposition parties, including the CPC, denouncing lockdowns, denouncing these heavy-handed restrictions, destroying our economy, destroying our livelihoods, destroying our lives. You don't hear anybody. I mean, the biggest thing that the CPC come up with is to criticize the government for not getting the vaccines quick enough. What do we need vaccines for? It's 99.8% recovery rate. All the numbers are based on a BS PCR test. What do we need a vaccine for? Right? But their biggest opposition to the government is the vaccine rollout. Really? That's not opposition. We're the opposition, folks. We're it, which is why they come after us. Except the difference is we don't have political cover. We don't have parliamentary privilege. So when we say something, or we attend a protest, or we take some sort of action, we're demonized, we're fined, we're arrested, some are put in jail, because we are the opposition. There's no two ways about it. There is no opposition. Which is why it was so important that Randy Hillier, Maxime Bernier, Derek Sloan, and the rest of them put together the Liberty Coalition. So push that, pump that out, you guys. You know, it was big news for a couple of days. Keep it in the news. Force it on your councillors, city councillors, your rural municipality reeves, your MLAs, your MPs. Push it on them. Keep pushing them. Keep pressuring them. Get them to sign on and denounce all this stuff. It's in their best interest because we are going to bring all this to light. We are going to eventually win. There will be accountability. There will be responsibility. And they have an opportunity to be on the right side. So, you know, push it, pressure them. Well, Biker says the PCR test is useless and deceptive. It provides de facto dictators the opportunity to cite new case levels and lock down populations, creating economic and human devastation. Absolutely, 100%. So anyways, stay tuned for tomorrow night. We have the Angry Albertan joining us. Looking forward to that. I really dig Josh. I like that guy. He's a great guy. Reasonable, level-headed, but very passionate. So stay tuned for that. That'll be a fun one. On Friday night, we'll have Kristen Nagel. She's a nurse out of Ontario that's been fired for speaking out. And she went down to the States for a rally there and had some troubles. We're going to let her tell her story. I'm looking forward to having her on the show on Friday. That's Friday at 7 o'clock my time. So 8 o'clock in the East, 5 o'clock in Pacific, 6 o'clock in Alberta. So check that out. And then we'll have our regular discussion with Salim at 8 o'clock my time, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific, and 7 o'clock in Alberta. So stay tuned for that. And as I said, I'm working on Theo Fleury. Like I said, I watched him today on Laura Lynch show. What a great guy! What a great message. He gets it. He gets it. He gets it pretty thoroughly. So impressive. We have to obviously support guys like that and thank guys like that who have a voice. People listen to Theo Fleury. And I'd like to get in a little bit about his own personal story and how he's arrived at where he is right now. So stay tuned for that. I'm looking forward to it. I'll let you know when that we can get that scheduled. I think there was a couple more, but I can't remember offhand. Anyways, I'm going to go back to try to find my charging cable for my other camera. I'm going to get that set up for my show tomorrow, so it can be a little bit of a better situation. But anyways, guys, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for supporting. And a reminder too, if for those folks who have a few bucks to help support guys like me, the Forum for Canadian Sovereignty and what we're doing. I mean, basically everything I'm doing is under the umbrella of the Forum for Canadian Sovereignty. So if you can donate, that would be greatly appreciated. I basically I have almost zero income from November till March. So I have to really be careful on what I'm doing with things. Part of the reason why I'm not going to Ottawa. But I am going to speak at the Ottawa event on the 14th through streaming. So that'll be good. But so, to keep everything chugging, I can't invest my own money into the forum because I have nothing coming in. So to help keep the operation moving along, your donations are very much appreciated. And thanks to all of those who have donated to this point. It's allowed us to do some things, print some stuff. There's expense to this, and the more resources we have, the more effective we can be. So, but again, I know how tough it is for everybody. I'm not whining. It's tough for everybody out there right now. And so I get it. But that's why I greatly appreciate those who have been able to donate to this point. Greatly appreciated. And it tells me that I'm doing something right and I'm going in the right direction because people are supporting what I'm doing. So somebody in D Live says, what Ottawa event? February 14th, there is a protest rally being put together by Kellyanne Wolf, and she has told me that Stephen Lartisse out of Quebec is going to bring some folks. So I told her 3 weeks ago that I wasn't going to make it, and it'd be extremely tough for me to promote the idea from the West. There just really isn't a lot of folks prepared to make that journey in the middle of winter after we've already done it a couple of times. There's a lot of factors. And right now, I think, and this is only my personal view, but I think this really has to be one on a provincial level, because it's the provincial governments that handle healthcare. It's the provincial governments that determine, all of these measures and stuff. And each province is different. So I really think that's the target. And it's the other thing is all of this is grassroots. So it's important to keep people together in your community, in your province, that are directly affected based on what the province is doing. So, so that's sort of been my position with that. I'm not denouncing it in any way. I think it's anything we can do in the line of bringing people together, getting the message out is a positive. And Kelly's put together a pretty good speaker list for that event. So if you are in the area and you can make it out there, by all means do it. Be part of it. So February 14th in Ottawa. Yes, thanks Valerie for reminding me. And then there's also the big rally in Alberta, February 20th, the Jericho March rally put on by Archer and a number of other folks out there. I'm seeing they're getting a lot of heat. And of course, as I said in my discussion with Archer, when they decided to make it a torch march, that the media would jump on that and make the correlation between them and Charlottesville. And of course, that's exactly what they've done. So it is what it is. Patriots cross country are standing strong, united with you. Yeah, I mean, you know what? There is, and there's so many different groups, and there's so many different people moving in the same direction. I love it. And, you know, we have to accept that too. The people get a little bit upset and discouraged because, you know, there's so many different groups. Listen, we're all a bunch of people that want freedom. We push individual freedom. We push self-reliance. We push self-determination. There's a lot of different people with similar ideas and some differing ideas, and that's completely okay. That's what we want. That's what we support. That's what we promote. That's what we're doing. And so there's going to be a whole whack of different groups, but we're all moving in the same direction. And at some point, as I've said many times, we will, these paths that we're all on will converge and are converging. And that's a good thing. And so we got to stop worrying about this being under one umbrella, one organization, you know, one leader. Nah, it doesn't work that way with the kind of folks with Patriots. We all have our own ideas, and different groups suit those ideas better than other groups. That's okay, because we're all going in the same direction anyway. So it's good. It's all good. We have to stop worrying about that. Yes, Tim, herding cats. I just let the cats go. Just let those cats go. And as long as we're going in the same direction, it's all good. It's like different platoons in the Army, right? You don't just put everybody together in one big blob and go at the enemy. You do it strategically. You have different platoons, you have different regiments, you have different battalions, all these different things. They all have different things to do. But it all comes together at, you know, for one cause. And that's what we are, right? So it's all good. It doesn't bother me in the least that there's a whole bunch of different groups of patriots doing different things, because everything that everybody is doing is extremely important, and it's all moving the dial. So it's all good. Anyways, guys, that's going to be a wrap for tonight. Again, thanks for coming out. Thanks for supporting what we're trying to do. And remember, hang on. And remember, globalism bad, nationalism good. Ciao for now, guys.